Localization is probably one of the most overlooked personalization strategies. Context is definitely crucial to getting accurate translations with AI. It's not AI that are going to take their job, it's the people that are using AI.
Hi everyone, I'm Jan, and today we are diving into the hard numbers behind localization. Lokalise surveyed over 500 global companies, and what they found is pretty wild. 63% say localization drives up to half of their revenue growth, but most teams are still using spreadsheets and outdated workflows. To help us break down, I'm joined by Rachel Wolff from Localization, one of the minds behind the 2025 Revenue and AI Trends Report. So if you are treating localization still as a cost center, this episode might be for you. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jan.
Excellent. Let's start with a headline stat. 63% of companies say localization drives between 26 and 50% of their revenue growth. What stood out to you the most in the data, and why is localization finally being seen as a growth driver, not just a support function?
I think the one thing that really stood out in the data is that it's very consistent across the board. So regardless of which industry or which country a company is operating in, it's very the growth potential is very, very similar. I think it's being recognized more now because customer expectations are changing. People expect customer experiences in their language. So I think that's where actually localization is probably one of the most overlooked personalization strategies. So I think that's part of it. I think also AI is making localization a lot more accessible now. So companies can see the value a lot faster. So I think, now I think it's really, really being recognized even more because of AI.
What made you Lokalise dive into such a report?
Well, because we knew there was such a huge growth potential from localization. And I think a lot of companies, they really struggle getting buy-in for localization. So we wanted to give them something that really kind of helped them get buy-in for localization. So something to show to the managers, the decision maker, because I think, a lot of companies really struggle to get that buy-in because they don't know how to prove the ROI of localization. I think they don't have, they haven't done it before, or they just don't, they have these really inefficient processes still. And so they can't show the ROI of the value that localization brings. And so there's this kind of circular problem. They want to get these tools to help them localize more efficiently, but then they need to show, prove the ROI of localization first. So I think that's where companies really struggle, just getting buy-in.
Now, there's a paradox, right? Even though companies see the value, most still report low or medium localization maturity. Why do you think that is? What's holding teams back? Is it technology, structure, or just a mindset?
I think so. Like what I said before, getting buy-in. I think that's the first hurdle. And then there's also a lack of expertise, like we saw in the report. That's one of the biggest hurdles because localization is very niche. Not many people specialized in localization, and a lot of the time companies just decide, right, we want to start localizing, and kind of ask a product manager or a content manager to own localization, and they don't really know where to start. So they just have these very chaotic processes. So I think and that brings me to the next kind of point. I think companies need to invest in upskilling their employees and training them in localization. And I think even that's true of even localization experts now, because of AI, localization experts are now trying to learn the best way to integrate AI into their existing localization processes. So I think there's a lot of upskilling that needs to be done in this area.
You also did a report on AI trends, right? So
yes, yeah.
What were the key findings of these reports, and what is your conclusion from the report?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Localization is definitely moving in that direction of AI first. So I think it's very much about integrating AI correctly into existing localization workflows. So it's not using ChatGPT and copying and pasting, because that's what people are doing at the moment with spreadsheets. They're copying and pasting, and it's just really inefficient. So I think the key is orchestrating AI and human translation in perfect harmony. So using AI first, and then sending like translations that need review, like to a human reviewer. And I think if you can get that balance just right, then you're already, like winning in localization.
Excellent. Yeah, there was a data of 80% of teams are moving towards hybrid localization, AI combined with human review. Did that surprise you, or was it what you expected?
Yeah, no, it didn't surprise me because I think, if you look at every industry, like AI is growing, and I know like the 80% was people who are planning to do. So don't think they've even started yet. So I think a lot of companies they plan to invest in like this hybrid localization workflow, and I think it's the only way to scale moving forward. You just have to look at companies like Reddit, who they said they turned like a profit for the first time in 20 years and attributed it to AI translation. And I think it's just, they're improving the customer experience and increasing conversions, and that's leading to more revenue. So I think and user generated content makes a lot of sense when it comes to AI, because there's so much of it. There's like a huge volume of content, and human translators, they just can't keep up. So that's where AI makes a lot of sense.
What does a good hybrid workflow actually look like?
So there's actually one in the AI trends report that we actually recommend to customers. But yeah, I think it starts with just AI taking a first pass, and then if it receives like a high quality score, then it can be passed on like to the next step of being published, or it can be sent for human review. And if we look at like large language models now, like they're actually, especially like custom models, they're actually delivering like 90% accurate translations the first time, which is incredible. It's like the same, is on par with human quality. So yeah, IA is really, it's really impressive at the moment in terms of localization.
In context? Tell me about how context work in AI scenarios.
Yeah, so context, that's 90% of accuracy. That is impossible without the right context. So you need to feed these large language models like your style guides, your glossaries, any like UX descriptions, like all the stuff you'd send to your translator, except AI kind of consumes it all in about a minute. So yeah, I think context is definitely crucial to getting accurate translations with AI.
And I understand that Lokalise has all this incorporated in their TMS workflows so that companies can push context as much as possible, right?
Yeah, you can like easily just like plug in your style guide. There's also translation memory, which kind of a database of your past translations, so they can be reused, which again saves costs. So there are many different ways you can kind of lean on like AI and automation to really improve the ROI of localization.
Got you. Talking a little bit about the sector and industries in which these companies are working, what kind of industries are ahead of the curve nowadays?
Yeah, it was interesting actually. I think this was really interesting to me when we did the report, the revenue report, because Germany actually came out on top in terms of localization maturity, and I think a lot of that has to do with German not being as widely spoken as, say, French and Spanish and English. And so I think they rely a lot more on international trade. And then healthcare as well. That was another one that stood out. After thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of accessibility regulations that they have to adhere to. They kind of, forced to localize and want to localize because they want to create like this optimal patient experience.
Okay, this seems like a contradiction between the quality regulations and the need for high quality and AI in general and the uncertainty. Have you seen any concerns from these industries?
From the healthcare industry, I think, they've always been a bit hesitant in the past to use machine translation because neural network models weren't as advanced as like the large language models you get today. But I think they're very much like they're putting more confidence now in AI translation because they can see the output. They can see like how accurate AI translation powered by large language models is, and especially if they're like creating their own custom models, they're feeding it their own terminology. So you get a lot of industry terminology that's very unique, and you have to get it right in the healthcare industry. So I think because they're already seeing value from AI translation, they're becoming more confident, and then including humans in the loop to review anything that's a bit low on the lower end.
What do these high performing teams do differently than others, and what can they learn from these high performers?
Yeah, I think when we look at the report, it's very much like the high maturity companies are very much focused on deep penetration, like deep localization in a few markets. So I think they're really focused on creating that optimal customer experience, and also just focusing on a few markets, localizing, like trying out different localization processes, and then improving the process as they go along, because there isn't actually one size fits all when it comes to localization. Everyone's different, every team is different. And so I think that's where they're like ahead, that's why they're ahead of the curve, because they're focused on a few markets and they're like iterating processes as they go along before they move into more.
Okay, so concentration, focus to do it right and well before you scale up.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get practical for a moment. If someone is still managing localization and spreadsheets, what one smart step they should or could take this quarter to improve?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say stop straight away, like using spreadsheets, because I mean, they were built for, at the end of the day, they were built for numbers. They weren't built for localization. They're just very inefficient. So I would just say, like, to anyone who's still using spreadsheets, just start a free trial with a localization platform. Like, there are plenty of them out there that offer free trials. Make sure it integrates with your tech stack so that it's quick and easy to set up. Make sure it has AI built in, because that's where you're going to show like drastic cost and time savings. And yeah, then just should prove the ROI by timing how much it takes you to localize a project, like in spreadsheets, versus how long it takes you to do it with a localization platform, and then connect that to your salary, and then how much you're going to save every year by localizing more efficiently.
Absolutely. So this is the way how teams can pitch for better ROI, for faster turnaround, if they want to get to a better workflow. Let me ask you a closing question. If you had one message for localization leads who feel like they are falling behind, what would you tell them?
I would just say upskill, like learn the best way to integrate AI within your localization workflows. Because I mean, a lot of people are very concerned about AI taking their jobs, but it's not AI that are going to take their job. It's the people that are using AI that are going to take their job. So I would just say, yeah, learn, iterate, and start planning the perfect localization journey with AI built in.
Rachel, thanks a lot for this quick interview about the new report from Lokalise published. You can find all this data on their website, and here in the show notes I will leave a comment to the report so that you can download the full stuff online. Thanks a lot, Rachel, and all the best for this year at Lokalise.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jam. Bye. Thanks for having me.